everyone. I'd like to call to order this regular board meeting of July 24th, 2024. I'd like to welcome everyone here. We'll first have our flag salute. Oh, first I should recognize we excuse Nathan Roberts and Amanda Tanner, who are out of town today. So it's just the three of us today, and Nathan asked that I chair the meeting. So I'm in his place today. So with that, I will stand for the flag salute. Lisa, would you lead us in that? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Also like to read our land acknowledgement statement. Pullman Public Schools reside on the homelands of the Nimiipuu Nez Perce people. We express our deepest respect for and gratitude towards the original and current stewards of this land. We acknowledge our role in building mutual respect and connections to support current and future generations. We'll move next to the approval of the agenda. I'll ask the board if there's any revisions to the agenda that you have. Dr. Maxwell, do you have any revisions?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I move approval of the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There's just three of us. All right, we'll now move on to reports, correspondences, and we'll start with the board reports. Craig, do you have a report for us?
Just to say that we spent a day at a retreat at the district office last week. It was a day-long retreat to talk about a number of issues in the district. And it was well attended and fruitful.
All right, thank you. Lisa?
I would just agree with what Craig said, that the retreat was really useful and we were able to touch on a lot of important issues and have some valuable discussion there. And that's it.
All right, and I, in my report, I would just like to extend a big thank you to Diane. It's been a long time putting together our budget and a lot of questions. I know you answered a number of my questions along the way, and I appreciate that. Just wanted to acknowledge your time and effort going into putting that together. I mean, when we read through the 262 pages or whatever it is, it's a lot there. So again, I appreciate you responding to my questions and helping me understand that process more as well. So then we'll turn it over to Dr. Maxwell for the superintendent's report.
Sure, I have a variety of things, several things. So I'll expand a little bit on the board retreat. Again, a lot of good information going over budget and things. And with that, it was a lot of budget review, data review, especially student achievement data. And they worked a lot on looking at what are some goals. And so I know, Aaron, you weren't there, but some of the top things that came out was support for students and families in the low income category was one, student engagement. Probably need to define that a little bit more, but PLC, process support, following board protocols, community outreach, support building passion. So I think some of those will continue to be defined a little bit more as we move through board communication and engagement, build community support around challenges, recognizing, celebrating staff, superintendent evaluation, aquatic center, building trust and relationships, strategic spending, the budget, legislative advocacy. Also talked about some of those success indicators around the goals as those develop, and some of those was student ambassadors, that student voice piece, board reports that you hear throughout the year, AP data, the CE survey data. We talked about bulletins that I do with the schools throughout the year. So one of the other things was mentioned was maybe reaching out to Jay Marie Reach, who we worked with before, who's a communication specialist in crisis communications and school education communication. And so I did actually speak with her this past weekend, and she's very interested in working with the board. She can do that in person or virtually. She's doing a lot more international work now, and we'll be doing a lot of that overseas. come late October. So if we want to see her in person, it'll probably need to be before then, but she's more than willing to come out and work. She's very good, well known in Washington State, works with a lot of school districts. So I just wanted to add on to that. Also wanted to share. We've been monitoring our enrollment numbers. We've seen a nice stream of incoming enrollments, not necessarily at kindergarten, but in other grade levels, kind of spread out. Third grade has currently 239. So in the elementary, that's the biggest class right now. So, and our biggest secondary class, of course, is our seniors who have ventured throughout the year, 256. So now we're not sure of all the withdrawals yet because the secretaries haven't come back in. So when they start processing that, we'll have a better number. But the trend data looks positive, at least for right now. But again, it's just one of those indicators. So I want to share that. Transportation, the Washington State Patrol vehicle inspection occurred yesterday. 23 buses, 10 vans, all passed the inspection with 0 corrections recommended from Washington State Patrol. One bus we did not present for inspection because we're waiting for a park for the door and we knew it would not pass. So we didn't present that one bus yet. So we will. Nutrition services, so the summer meals are being served at Marine Park and Blues Trace Monday through Thursday. Also at Kamiak Elementary and Pullman High School while summer school is happening. And we've seen about 200 lunches served per day, which is much, much higher than in the past. And I think a lot of that's due to the location change at Rainey, which this year we were allowed to do because they changed some of the parameters and rules and regulations about where you can serve. So that's a big success. Also want to let the board know that we qualify for a school's facility construction funding grant. So because we're a small school, if you recall, last legislative session, they allocated a lot of money to the small schools roster, which they have been neglected in funding. And so we are eligible. We've had 2 meetings with construction service group. And right now we are looking at ranking in order projects that we would like to submit. HVAC upgrades at Franklin with energy recovery. If you remember, that's one of the schools that we need to do something in order to meet the new clean energy standards. Same at Jefferson. We're also going to put in for a new roof at Franklin and a new roof at Jefferson. Asphalt and sidewalk work at Franklin, asphalt and sidewalk work at Jefferson, LMS bus loop asphalt, exterior door and window replacements at Franklin, and exterior door and window replacements at Franklin, but I believe that would be at JES as well. So that's kind of the order of priority that we're going to see if we can meet those energy standards first and then work on roofs are always costly and one of the most time consuming and sensitive areas to fix. So that's what we're working on as far as putting a priority. Next, let's see, I'll make sure all my notes. So the other is the Boys and Girls Club. So been spending a lot of time the past week working with organizations, foundations, businesses in our local community to see if we can find some after school programming to replace the YMCA, which you know is closing. So they've been our after school break summer programming partner for a number of years. And so we've been working with Boys and Girls Clubs out of Lewiston and Clarkston. Their executive director of organizational development and field operations came today. We took them on a tour of Kamiak and Franklin, which we're recommending as possible sites for Boys and Girls Clubs. One in the north end, one in the south end. So Kamiak would also service students from Jefferson. Franklin would also service students from Sunnyside. We would work on a plan to get those students to those schools, busing them if that becomes a reality. So we're looking at that. The community had to come up with at least $350,000 in a week, and I'm happy to say in the call this morning we surpassed that. So we also secured some funding for years 2 and 3, not the whole amount, but a significant portion of that amount, and we're still not done with some of the organizations and foundations we reached out to. So the Boys and Girls Club Executive Committee meets tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. They would have to approve everything. So, but right now, the biggest hurdle, which is funding, we seem to have reached that goal, so that won't be a obstacle. So really happy to report that. If this is a go, the Boys and Girls Club will put the current 65 students on the priority list to service and then add after that. Right now, they're estimating, taking a look at 100 students. Right now, we service about 65. They're also looking at cutting the price, which might also increase folks' affordability for that after-school program. So right now, it'd be after school and possibly summer program next year.
Is that 100 students like a minimum for them to come in, or just kind of what they think
They think we could handle 100 students.
Okay.
We talked a lot, what if we exceed that, or we can always expand back to Jefferson, add to Sunnyside. If the need arises, we've already run programs out of there. It would just be a matter of them gearing up for staffing. They also will be reaching out to the YMCA employees to see if they would like to apply for the Boys and Girls program. So.
Can I ask a question? This is
Yes.
really exciting, and it's
Absolutely.
something that people are absolutely talking about just around town, and really excited to hear any updates. We had talked a little bit about at the retreat how the YMCA model, they couldn't take some of the funding for some low-income families and schools. Would that change, or would that be the same under the new?
Yeah, there's actually Boys and Girls Club have a scholarship program, and then on top of that, I do know one of the organizations I talked this morning, they are committed to providing a scholarship for students or families that cannot afford it. Also, depending on what happens with the YMCA finances, if there is money left over, that will be allocated to the scholarship endowment fund. So there is, yeah, and it'll be half the price that our families are paying before. So it's looking very positive, but I can't say 100% until the Boys and Girls Club Executive Committee votes tomorrow. So, but it's looking very positive. So I appreciate, especially I will say Mackenzie Brumman for Schweitzer SEL Engineering Laboratory. She's kind of been taking the lead, and a lot of other people. Trust me, it's a big group. So working very hard, a lot of late nights and weekends, and so very positive. So I'm very excited about this opportunity. So. Any other questions?
No, just on that, I just want to say, thanks for the, different organizations and foundations working together to help facilitate that. I mean, that's, I think, a great show of the partnership that we have, where we can provide the buildings and they can come up with the funding to help get another group in here, hopefully the Boys and Girls Club. But yeah, it's always nice to see the city support the community in that way.
Yeah, just about any organization told me they could think of has been on this call, so and participating. So yeah, very exciting, very tight timeline, but if it gets passed, they're already setting up communications, and we'll start interviewing staff.
And thank you also. I know that was a lot of extra time on your part.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
That's the life of a school superintendent nowadays. So, and I think that concludes my report.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We will now have a program report on community engagement, board, and attendance by Dr. Kramer.
Okay. Here I can share just the data that we have related to community engagement board and attendance. Community engagement board used to be known as the truancy board. We like community engagement much better. So you can see here, this This shows how many students and families were contacted and met with staff about attendance supports. And that really is our first step, is to help to eliminate those barriers. So you can see at all of the elementary schools and high school is all included. Lincoln Middle School's data was not available. And then you can see that next step is how many students then met with the community engagement board, and it's students and their families. So at Franklin, while they might have communicated with 12 families, they didn't end up, and must have been able to remove the barriers. And so you can see with 27 at Pullman High School. And I sit on that community engagement board. It's one of my favorite things that we do. We started a new thing this year where we also check in with students. So students that might have struggled, maybe even the year before, we bring them back and check in on them. And it's obviously working, because you see at the high school, we met with 27 students, only 6 of them ended up having a petition filed for their attendance. And so I think that it's not the community engagement board as much as it is our staff that really wrap their arms around and figure out ways to keep our students in school. So this year we did have a couple of students at elementary level that also ended up being forwarded for truancy. But I'm really pleased with our results. And we did have we met with students at the middle school. I just can't tell you how many. That's that data. Lincoln administration is not available to provide that to us. Okay, and then our attendance rates for this year, again, high school always is a little bit lower. But you can see the range at elementary goes as high as 95% at Sunnyside, and still in the 90s at middle school. I would venture a guess, I haven't seen statewide data yet on attendance, but I would venture a guess that we're high in comparison. So that was the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Well, we submit or we file for truancy, then what happens?
So we file for truancy, but then the court does what they call a stay. So that it means that the petition just sits there. And then should the student not start to engage in school, then we lift the stay and then they make a court appearance before the judge. But we just haven't had many of those. And of the ones that we've had, they've actually just pretty much flipped it right around, started coming to school. And the courts have started to do something that I think is helpful, and it's that it used to be, which didn't make a lot of sense, but it used to be the kiddos that would repeatedly go to court because of attendance would then have to go to our local or area juvenile facilities maybe for 5 days or something like that. Now they're starting to assign community service. And I wish we could be so specific as say, this is, and you'll do community service in a school, because there might be something that we could hook them with, right? But the community service is a really positive opportunity that we have.
Thank you.
I had a question just about going through the community engagement board process. Are there any like patterns with barriers that we've been able then to, change or kind of make changes for the future?
Perhaps our biggest pattern at the high school is 9th grade. And it's pretty overwhelming sometimes to come to high school. And, but generally when we've met with kiddos and then done the follow-up has really helped. It seems like they're getting on track. So, because, the challenge is that then they become credit deficient, and it's just, so for them, that just is a circular event, and we don't want that to be that case.
Thank you. All right, and our last report will be the equity update. Again, Dr. Maxwell.
Yeah, thank you very much. So equity update, one of the things that the board at the board retreat worked on was discussing equity, and especially in the formation of a task force, kind of talk about what the purpose would be, how would that membership of that committee, what would that look like, how would that be process. So a good discussion with some examples, still some little bit more work to do on that, but I appreciate the board's work in that area. The others, as you're aware, new Title IX requirements have come out, although some of those are being litigated. So it's kind of an interesting mess right now. So not a whole lot of changes. A lot of the things that have come out we're already doing. So for most of it, it's really not a change for us, or a couple that we'll have to wait and see what the pending legislation comes out. And the other will be implementing and maybe doing some slight revisions to our policy and procedures, especially regarding processes. So you'll see those coming most likely sometime this winter, as far as mainly, I think, procedure type things. So that's all I have on the equity, I think.
All right, thank you. We will now move to the public comment portion of our meeting. The public comment section of the agenda provides an opportunity for individuals or members of a group to address the board on educational issues. If you intend to provide public comment this evening, you may register to speak using the sign-in sheet located near the boardroom entrance. If anyone hasn't had a chance, Diane has it there. And there's also, I should note, we'll also later on be having a public hearing on the budget, and I believe also that needs to be registered. Do they need to sign in for that or no? No, okay, they just come. All right. So let me just read this. To ensure fairness and provide for an orderly meeting, we respectfully require that individuals speak only once for a maximum of 3 minutes and may not transfer their speaking time to others. Please be attentive as your name will be called in the order it is listed on the sign-in sheet. To assist board members in review and consideration of your comments, we appreciate you providing a written copy of your remarks along with your email or mailing address on the sign-in sheet. When addressing the board, please approach the microphone and state your name before presenting your comments. The board will listen and may offer clarification if needed. However, the board will not engage in a discussion at this time. Depending on the nature of the topic, the board may decide to schedule it as a discussion item for a future meeting. We kindly request that all comments remain civil and respectful, and we remind you to consider the impact of your words and know that you bear personal responsibility for their content. We caution you to avoid certain statements that may infringe upon the rights of others under various laws, including those protecting privacy and prohibiting defamation. Providing public comment demonstrates your feelings of engagement and participation in the decision-making process in our community, and we thank you in advance for your public comment. We will first invite up Gabriel Wolford. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me. Good to go.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
First, I want to thank you for doing the summer lunch programs. That's awesome. Before I get started, really cool program, and I really appreciate all the work you guys put in to really grow and educate our youth and our community. I know you're here to talk primarily about the budget, but we have a mental health crisis on our hands. Youth depression and suicide rates are hitting all-time highs in our state. This is largely due to an increasing number of students identifying as transgender. It's a myth that the lack of acceptance of transgender ideologies leads to mental health crisis. Despite all the growth and acceptance of transgender agendas in our state educational systems and other public influencers, greater acceptance has led to greater suicide rates that have been climbing for the last 20 years in the transgender community. As of this year, transgender individuals reported attempting suicide rates at over 1,000 times higher than inmates in the world's most suicide-prone prisons, and 20 times greater than Jews in Nazi World War II concentration camps. On average, 4.5 out of every 10 transgender individuals will attempt suicide in their lifetime. This has only risen since current transgender curriculum and policy was implemented in our schools. You may think your hands are tied by the superintendents or state codes, But if enough parents and school districts speak up and take stands like Kennewick School District recently did to reason for the sake, or to pursue reason for the sake of these kids' lives, change will come. God made these kids wonderfully, male and female, and he made no mistakes when he made them. Departing from the truth will always lead to mental struggles. We'll all face adversity and rejection in life. We'll be made fun of, teased, mocked, and feel left out. There will always be someone who disagrees with us or what we believe in. But claiming depression and suicide is the healthy byproduct of these emotions and experiences is wrong. We should be helping kids discover their value in light of who God made them to be. We should be building up their resiliency to adversity, not pushing transgender agendas on them, saying they need to change their identity and be accepted by others to find happiness. The school district has and will continue to lose students and staff if we continue on this trajectory of pushing gender dysphoria on our kids. Thank you for our time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now Rick Grunwald? Grunwald, okay.
I did make a copy. Who do I give that to?
Maybe, yeah,
Give us
right
here.
I have to change it a little bit. I'll explain.
That's okay.
That's fine. Okay.
My name's Rick Grunwald. I'm a PHS graduate from 1973. We had our 50th reunion last year. And I'm a resident of Pullman since 1965. Thank you for this opportunity to give comment to this important board. You oversee the education of the next generation, and much authority and responsibility rests on you. And thank you, Mr. Wofford, for your comments. My purpose tonight is to underscore the relationship between his points and the budget problems the school district is facing. And maybe I need to back up a little bit. I thought that the budget crisis was kind of because of the lack of enrollments, and maybe that was an issue. But I think it will be an issue, and so I'll just continue. I strongly believe that if there are enrollment issues and the parents, it's because of some of the things we teach, things like maybe the sex ed or portions of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the curriculum about gender. I think more and more parents will become aware that there's some negative effects to this kind of teaching on their children, and they will opt to remove their children from public education. And if so, that's right. I think we can expect significant greater budget for shortfalls if we continue to teach these things. Case in point, last year, a granddaughter of a friend of mine came, told her one day after kindergarten, the teacher asked us what name we wanted to be called that day. Any name is okay. And I thought, and the grandmother thought, what? Is it, and it engendered in the grandmother a distrust for the motives of the school. Why would our schools want to intrude on parental authority and ask what name the child wanted to be called? And I also understand that we ask high schoolers, maybe even younger students, what pronouns they want to be called. Is that something parents want? I don't think so. You might say, well, we're following state law, and that might be true, but that doesn't make it right. And I think we can change that. I think let's work together to return to God-given morality in Washington State. Like was indicated, Kennewick made some bold decisions. Those changes would be a benefit to the health and lives of our precious children, and we can do it. Back to the budget and school funding. Last time I checked, almost half of my property taxes go to schools. I thought, wow, that's a lot. And my tax dollars are funding curricula which are harmful, I believe, to the well-being of our children. So I can't vote in favor of school levies until we change what we teach. So thanks for the opportunity to give public comment. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate both of you being here. We will now move on to the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Is there any item that a board member would like to remove from the consent agenda?
I would like to take the personnel report off the consent agenda.
Okay. All right, that will be removed. Just, does that get moved down to the discussion section, or do we review that just right after?
Right after.
Right, okay, right, okay. All right, so the personnel report has been removed. Any other item to be removed? Okay. I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to approve the amended consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda as amended with the personnel report being removed has passed. All right, so we will now move to the personnel report and any discussion on that.
Just some explanation of the added position on the docket,
Oh, on the admin, on the admin salary
administrative
schedule.
salary schedule, yeah.
Yeah,
Or is that the assistant director for special services?
Right.
Yes. So part of the, with the director of special services leaving, we opted not to replace that position, but replace her with an assistant. And also, that would remove the special services TOSA position. So we took the director position, eliminated that, eliminated the TOSA position, and made an assistant director for special services. So kind of collapsing two positions into one, at kind of a mid-level.
Okay. So, but do we have a special ed director? Part of the assistant superintendent,
Yeah.
which is when you were hired, you had that position, she was hired
Yes.
as part of that position, so that's been longstanding.
Yeah.
But it went away and now it's come back to that role.
Roberta has always had a small portion of, even when we had a director, but
Right.
now, since we don't have that director position, Roberta now has full control of special services and with the assistant to help with special education services and the growing population of special education students we have. We felt that was prudent because that's a very important population that we need to make sure we're serving. So.
Okay, just want to make sure it wasn't just an ad.
No, that's a good question, so.
Connection between the two.
Yep.
Okay. Because as we're looking at the budget and looking at cuts even to, school supplies, to teachers and to school supplies and everything, we just want to make sure that there's
Absolutely.
commensurate cuts at the district level.
yeah. And I think that was, it was discussed previously, maybe you just weren't at
May not have been at that meeting.
but yeah, we had discussed
I
with
missed
the director position being vacated of the potential of having an assistant.
Right. My first questions on that though, was that the assistant superintendent would take on that duty. I didn't know that there was going to be another position added to cover some of that.
Can I ask a question on the personnel report?
Yeah.
We're on that. I just forgot to send this in an email earlier. I was curious about with the retirement of our information systems director, is that a position we will be filling? I know there's been some positions we're leaving open and some.
Yes, we will. We're working on that job description currently. So we'll hopefully be getting that put together pretty well. So, because that's a key position, so it'd be very difficult to operate without that particular position, so. And it hasn't been updated in 16 years, so we're on draft 2 right now, so. But yes, we'll be planning on it, and we budgeted for that position as well, so.
Okay,
How do we make a motion?
Just
on
make a
this?
motion.
just make a motion to approve as we did the consent agenda.
Okay, I move to approve the personnel report portion of the consent agenda.
So I can second that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you
Being
can.
part of the quorum, I second it. So there's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. All right, so the next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the 2024-2025 budget. The board will now recess into a public hearing to listen to public comment on the 2024-2025 budget. No action will be taken during the public hearing. We will then resume the regular board meeting. Per board policy 1410, the rules governing a public hearing are as follows. People who have signed the register will be allowed up to 5 minutes to speak on the topic. The president may permit one speaker to yield their time to another speaker. No one speaker may speak a second time until all others on the register have been allowed to speak. The president may cause opposing views to alternate. The president may adjust the rules to facilitate the discussion. Speakers will use the microphone when addressing the board, and speakers will identify themselves. So at this time, I will invite any member of the public to the podium to comment on the 2024-2025 budget. For the second time, I would like to invite any member of the public to the podium to comment on the 2024-2025 budget. And for the third time, I would like to invite any member of the public to the podium to comment on the 2024-2025 budget. Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing for the 2024-2025 budget, and we will now reconvene back to our regular open public board meeting. The next item on the agenda are the action items. So the first action item is the 2024-2025 budget presented by Diane Hodge, our finance director.
Okay, so at the last board meeting, I did a presentation on our budget, and I just want to comment because there was a comment as to one of the reasons we're having budget issues, and it's because we're not fully funded. And I'm going to get on a little soapbox here, but we pay $2.2 to $2.4 million in insurance and utilities alone. We are only funded $1 million. So we really need the legislators to step up and fund that additional $1.4 million, because we can't expect our community to do that for us. The state's supposed to fund our essential needs, and it's just not being done. So we are working on that. But we are going to ask the board to approve our budget as presented, with our general fund being $44,767,954. Capital projects $2,398,986. Debt service 7.2. Our ASB 721,000, and transportation 686,000. So we're just asking the board to approve our 24-25 budget as presented, with our 4-year plan summary and enrollment projection.
Are there any questions for Diane? All right. I will entertain a motion on the budget.
I move that we approve the 2024-2025 fiscal year budgets as presented by resolution 24-2501.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. I'll now open for any discussion on that. I would just like to say, recognizing that we are not funded to the full capacity, especially for items that have been increasing like utilities and insurance. I think it's a good opportunity for us to continue to engage the community because it's going to be a lot of the action of the community members reaching out to the state and their representatives there to get more action at the state level. Because I think if we can't get that action at the state level, we're going to be in a big problem coming up next year that I think we need to start already thinking about. Because if that doesn't happen, that deficit's probably going to be even more unless we do see that increase in enrollment, which really there haven't been many projections there. So, I think it's something that we might want to start talking about or looking at a little earlier this year, just knowing that that is the reality that we might be facing. I mean, yeah, we're at the mercy of the state to alleviate that, but if they don't, then we're going to have to do that as a district. And so I think it's something that we might need to have more conversations on earlier.
Could I add
Yes,
there?
please.
So, I'm sorry, but part of the board retreat, they discussed legislative advocacy.
Mm.
I did send out an email to all of the county superintendents and boards to see who would be interested in that, if we were to host a forum of the legislative representative and/or candidates, if we could pull that together. And so I've heard from about half of the districts that are, all the superintendents are interested, and some of the board members are interested. Some, it will depend on farming and harvest, but I've had positive responses back, not from all, but approximately 50%. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no.
Bring that up in the superintendent's report, but when we started talking budget, it reminded me that the board had discussed that, and I have reached out, so.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be an important thing. Yeah, if they don't, we're gonna have some tough, even tougher decisions and some that we already made this year to help reduce the budget. That
Yeah.
Are gonna have to be made.
Yeah.
And now, those are some of the questions that I was reaching
Yeah.
out to you about via email, was just, the projection on this is not looking good unless the state changes, so.
And I appreciate that, I appreciate all the questions, and I do want to comment, unfortunately, Pullman is in a good situation right now compared to a lot of schools throughout the state because we're not fully funded. So, I just think we're doing a good job
Yeah,
and getting ahead of the game.
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's been good, just, yeah, I wanna make sure we
Yeah.
stay there, and if nothing
Absolutely.
changes at the state level, we're obviously gonna need to make some
Right.
changes at the district
Yeah,
level,
some
and
tough
just
decisions, yeah.
to be prepared in some discussions for that potentially coming up. Yeah, Lisa.
I just want to make a comment on that point that going through this for the first time and learning a lot about it, I've just been really impressed by how our district has been prepared in ways that other districts have not been able to, for sometimes reasons completely outside of their control. And that it is a really big opportunity for us to connect with other districts who are facing many of the same issues. And for the public too, I think when we're talking about state funding, we are also talking about things like unfunded mandates that come from the state. It's not always just about asking for more money. It's also
Absolutely.
about the balance of things that they're asking us to do.
Yeah, that was good.
And I can just say that, decisions at the state level that made suing school districts easier. And this is just an outcome. Now the insurance companies have to charge us more because of the
Exactly.
decisions made at the state level. So it may have been an unintended consequence, but that's why we are where we are.
Mhm.
It's because of the decisions made at the state level.
Well, and when your insurance increases $500,000 within a 2-year period, a lot of these, a lot of our expenses are increasing, especially food, food supplies, et cetera, insurance, utilities. These just kind of hit us like a brick wall. It's stuff that we didn't see coming. And so we're just having to kind of compensate along the way.
All right, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the 2024-2025 budget, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I will move on to the calculus text adoption presented by Dr. Kramer.
I was not at the last board meeting, but I'm assuming Dr. Maxwell did a nice job of presenting the textbook to you. So as you know, his textbook aligns with a college in the classroom experience for our students that's upcoming with Eastern Washington University. So happy to answer any questions that you may have. They did not have anyone come to review the text. So.
All right, are there any questions for Dr. Kramer? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for.
I move that,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve calculus.
Text adoption.
That says early something in there.
Early
Oh, it's the last name of the
transcendental.
book.
Oh, that's the name of the book.
That's the name of the book.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, there we go. As a text for calculus at Pullman High School.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? I just want to say, I think it's excellent that we can have more of these opportunities for kind of that dual credit opportunity for them. I know it's beneficial for the students. And I've heard from many of the, well, I shouldn't say many, right? Because it's low in number, 5 or 6 students that I've talked to about this, that they're pretty excited to see more of these opportunities for them in the classroom. So hopefully we can keep working on those agreements. But yeah, all right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the calculus text adoption, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. All right, we'll move on to the 2,415 performance-based pathway for high school graduation. And Dr. Kramer is presenting this again.
Yes, and Dr. Maxwell did so for me at the last board meeting. And so this one adds another option, which I just so appreciate. We went from having, you have to pass the test in both math and ELA in order to graduate, to really looking at opportunities for students. And so this is just one that invites a chance for students to demonstrate their learning in other ways.
I have a question for you on this. How is this, I shouldn't say advertised, but how is this communicated that it's an option to the students? Is it something that they inquire about first, or is it?
No, what happens is, so all students at 10th grade have to take the 10th grade exam.
Mhm.
Then if students haven't met the standard on that exam, then counselors go ahead and have those conversations
Okay.
with students so that they know that this is an opportunity.
Okay, so it's kind of take the exam first and see if somebody might be struggling with that, and then present it as an opportunity for them to take a
Very similar to the
desperation.
multiple pathways we have in CTE.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Kramer? All right. Take a motion.
I move to adopt policy 2415, performance-based pathways for high school graduation.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Excellent, that also passes, thank you. Our last action item is policy 5010, non-discrimination and affirmative action, and Dr. Maxwell will present that.
Thank you very much. So I presented this at the last board meeting. So this is basically updating policy 5010, non-discrimination, affirmative action. That was highlighted in the July 2023 policy legal news. So again, it's been revised with WASDA's recommended language. Primarily, it added some more definitions to examples of discriminatory harassment to the policy, and then it renumbered and renumbered the policy. So nothing substantive, but again, just cleaning it up to make sure it meets the WASDA sample policy.
Yeah.
I've had no questions since the last presentation, so.
Okay. Any questions from the board? No, to Dr. Maxwell? Okay. Any motion?
I move to approve the revisions to the non-discrimination and affirmative action policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? I just want to say I've been reading through it. I appreciated the updates and clarifications to that. I think it makes it a lot more clear, giving some of those examples. I think it's kind of clearer for the students as well on what, you know, they can expect. And if there's any concerns, it's laid out a little more. So I appreciate those changes. Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of approving the policy 5010 non-discrimination and affirmative action, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes also. All right, we will now move to discussion items. Discussion items are presented to the board for discussion. If they need, they will be brought back at the next meeting. If they need action, they will be brought back at the next meeting. So first discussion item is resolution 23-24-13, cancellation of outstanding warrants, and Diane will present that.
Okay, so every year we come to the board with any outstanding warrants that haven't been redeemed after a year. We have to send that to the Department of Revenue annually. And so it's required that we come to the board with those outstanding warrants. We gave them 3 notifications to try and redeem these warrants. We received no response. And so we do have the resolution with the list of outstanding warrants.
All right.
Any questions?
All right, thank you. All right, moving on, we'll move to the request for proposals for preschool services by Dr. Kramer.
Okay, every 3 years, we bring a request for proposals for our special education services at the preschool level. As in other years, our only submission was made by Community Child Care Center and Head Start, which is just right up there. And I reviewed the proposal, as did Paula Bates. The only change from to the current contract is an increase in cost, and it's not even $1,000. And that's for the 8 slots and the use of a classroom. So we have one set aside classroom for our students who are most impacted for a separate preschool program there. So I think that it was very reasonable to only increase it by less than $1,000. I feel really good about where we are with the plan for the next 3 years.
Excellent. Question I had on the 8 slots, how is that determined? Is that something that we requested, you know, in the RFP, that somebody present a plan for 8 slots, or is that what the RFP came back as?
Yeah, we propose a plan. Sometimes we don't use 8 slots. Last year, I think we averaged 6.
Okay.
We try to have 8 filled, but sometimes we don't.
Yeah. So basically in that preschool,
Yeah.
there's 8 slots for special education.
For our students that we've identified, yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, looks like you're staying up here again for discussion on the 2024-2025 assessment plan.
Okay, the assessment plan, I just think it's better every time, okay? So, we just continue to gather more feedback from our staff, and it really, I think that while I come and stand before you, it's really, this is the staff. I represent them in this, in looking at all of our assessments, from MAPS to DIBELS, AP testing, to the student wellness universal screener that we use, and then our Smarter Balance assessments that we do. But it's just a variety. It's all included. While kids, the thing that I'm probably the most excited about is that we have made quite a few changes to how we look at DIBELS, which is Dynamic Indicators Basic Early Literacy Skills. We used to just like, welcome back, kids, go ahead, we're gonna assess you. And we're gonna wait on KN1 a little bit later this year, and I think that that's a really healthy thing. We all know Ks take a little bit of time to adjust, and first graders, sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to remember. They probably left knowing their sounds and letters and sounds, but they just need a little bit of time. And so I think that this is really reflective of what the needs of our students are, and is much more responsive than perhaps what we've been before. So happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
I disagree. After 3 months off of anything, I think we all forget a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. I think, I don't have any questions. No, all right. Thank you, and I think the last one you get for us is the 2024-2025 state and federal grants approval.
Okay, so our state and federal grants have included the allocation and whether or not it's an increase or a decrease. In some cases, it's a bit less. I'm just looking at, oh yeah, okay. In some spots, it's a bit less. I was like, whoa, I thought we were getting more money. We are. Okay, so you can see in special education a little bit less in federal funds, but then when you go to the state funds, we see an increase in our budget by $400,000. And that was reflected in last legislative session.
Right.
They gave us a little bit of they gave us a bump. Now I can promise you this is all already taken up and we added some staffing. So because of the needs of our students. So we have already adjusted for that. The decrease in Title I funds, that's due to fluctuation in our poverty level. That ups and downs, that goes up and down. Title II, again, that's less because of that. Title III, a little bit of an increase. A bit of an increase in state transitional bilingual funds. Carl Perkins, the one I can tell you they haven't posted how much we'll even be eligible for yet. Learning assistance program is up a little bit. And then Jefferson is our only school that is a learning assistance program high poverty school. So they got a little bit more money than last year, almost $100,000 now. Highly capable is down, and that is just based on total enrollment. That's how they make that determination. Our enrollment was down a little bit, so we saw less money there. Happy to answer any questions about any of it.
On all these different grants, are they things that we apply to each year, or are they just?
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah,
I'm the we, along with Paula Bates and Jennifer Hamilton, are the ones that work on those grant applications, and then have to get them all approved by Diane. But yeah, it's and of course we get feedback from everybody. It's based off of the needs assessment. The nice part is that now the federal grants are really in one application, so it's not quite as repetitive. But it's in a new system that is not as intuitive in my mind. I'm sure for most people it is more intuitive.
I'll second that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, but it's, we've done our substantially approvable. That's what you just do at first. They haven't even released all the grants for this next year. So we haven't even started on the application process yet.
Do you do the Carl Perkins or does Jill?
Oh, excuse me, Jill does
Jill
that,
does
yeah.
that, okay.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, but no, we appreciate that effort from everybody
Yeah,
to submit those grants. It's,
Yeah,
I know it's a process, so.
it's a process, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money for us.
Yeah, no, it is good. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Kramer. We'll move on to the 2024-2025 school meal prices presented by Justin Polstead, and welcome is your new role as Executive Director of Operations.
Thank you, sir.
First presentation of the new role.
Yes, thank you.
No pressure on this one, Justin.
None at all. That's right, I'm learning a lot, it's all good. So, as you can see in the background piece here, really what we need to do is we're tasked with kind of keeping up with as prices go. It reminds me kind of a little bit of the opposite of Costco. We go to Costco and get a hot dog, the price is always staying right there while everything else is going up, we're supposed to kind of stay with things as prices go up. That's the general background with this. Couple things that we're supposed to stay within for sure. One, on average, we're on a 10-cent raise per year that we go up in prices that we're asking for our students to pay. And we've stayed within that this year. Any questions on that one?
Is there an actual like calculator that goes into this? Or is it just kind of based on what we see our number of students? So that's the actual calculator.
Yeah, and we actually looked at that today because I had questions myself, first time going through this. I was concerned that we're not hitting that 10-cent cap. And it's with the averages, we are hitting that spot. So there's that calculator, there's a little bit of form. We talked with Jesse, who's in charge of food services, to kind of help walk us through, make sure everything was straight, and she had it all in line. I just needed to learn a little bit as we go. So,
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just a gradual increase in price.
Yeah. With the times as well.
Yep. Just.
All right, any other questions?
Just an observation that the breakfast at Lincoln and the high school went up 15 cents, but for adults, it didn't go up at all. That was interesting.
Is that just based on the calculator, or was there?
I would have to look into that, find out more information on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'll just add, I think one of the reasons in the past that you see very little movement in the adult, because not a whole lot of adults do breakfast.
There's not.
So you tend to make changes in the higher number of participants in meals. So,
Sure.
but just not make sense.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you. I think you're staying for the next one as well, the 2024-2025 clubs and fundraisers.
Yes, so clubs and fundraisers, so this is just upcoming clubs and fundraisers for the year. There's changes every year to our clubs. Sometimes it's because of student interest, clubs will dissolve or will be added. Sometimes it's due to advisors. And so this is just a snapshot of what's coming up for the year. And it probably will change as the year goes. There may be a group of students, as there is typically every year, we really are interested in this, want to get this club going, and they go through the process with ASB and then add that club. But this is what we have for now at this time with additions and changes.
Just for clarification, all of these clubs are funded out of either fundraisers or ASB?
Yeah,
Or
ASB support is where those, or fundraisers where that comes from, correct? Yeah.
all right, any questions or discussion on that? I mean, looking through it, it's amazing that, I mean, there's a lot of diversity of interests and
Yeah.
I mean, I know as I visit the different schools, I hear a lot of excitement around the different clubs and the engagement in there. So it's nice that we can get a lot of different engagement from a lot of different interests.
Yeah, it's been great. And we always want to strive. I know at the high school was always, we want to have something for everybody to be involved in. And we had, things all across the board that have come and stayed and come and gone. And but it's great to have those pockets for kids to be in while they're here to pique those interests and build connections with their peers and with the adults too.
All right, thank you. And I think the last one on your, for discussion with you is the prime vendor contract renewal.
Right, that interlocal agreement with Spokane Public Schools, that co-op, looks like it's gone on for almost 15 years. I think it was 2010 was when it got going. And what it looks like is we're able to piggyback on with other districts to keep prices the same with the purchase we're making for food. Like I said, something we've done for several years now. Looks like it's a benefit for both groups, for us to be able to jump in and do that and keep things consistent, not have to kind of reinvent the wheel.
you know, do we have a voice during that negotiation when the Spokane School District is negotiating? Or is it, do we just rely on them to make the best negotiations and?
That's a good question. I haven't been a part of that yet.
So I can answer that.
Answer that.
So they, the reason we go through Spokane School District, we have a local agreement with them is because they go out with the RFP.
Okay.
And then, there's other schools that piggyback, so we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And then we verify their contract and everything to make sure everything looks good.
Okay.
So we do a verification of their contract.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a great, I mean, to be able to leverage
Yeah,
their size with the contract is a
Exactly.
great opportunity. Yeah, I was just curious how that, but yeah, verification after the fact is a great,
Yeah.
great way to do that. So, all right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Justin.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move on to our last discussion item, which is 4260P rental lease of school district facilities and facility rental fee schedule presented by Dr. Maxwell.
Well, I had mentioned this a while ago to the board that as part of our budget adjustments and looking at that, we've been really doing a lot of digging into all areas of our expenses and revenue. And this is one that has not been touched since 2014. So it's been quite a while. And so Diane and myself, we did a little bit of research and we reviewed 5 other school districts' facility rental lease options. Central Valley, West Valley, Cheney and Clarkston, which are similar to our size. We did look at Spokane. I was just mainly interested in what they charge, and it's very interesting. Some of theirs are really, really low and some are high. So, but I just threw that in for information. So one of the things that we wanted to do is when we looked through it, we had basically two places where the prices were. So we wanted to consolidate because it was hard when we had a policy and a procedure, but then we had a whole separate document as far as fees. And so part of the goal was to remove the rental lease fee schedule from procedure 4260 and add 4260F. That would be more consistent with the rest of our policies and procedures and forms. So that's one of the main changes. The other is you'll see new adjusted fees would align closely with other school district fee schedules. So we tried to align it with what we saw in similar type size districts to a degree. So one thing I did change, which and I borrowed this from the other 4 districts, we just had a flat school day fee. So if you run it on a holiday or you run it on a non-school day, you pay the bargain price. And so I thought that was something that we should look at is a school day, a non-school day, and a holiday schedule, because when we do have custodians that are on holiday, we are paying them holiday rate, or on a non-school day, we're paying them overtime. Under our current system, we're not recouping those costs, and so that's costing us. So we didn't do any changes with tier 1. You can see tier 2. And so we kind of made this consistent of a school day, non-school day, and holiday, tried to keep that consistent across the board. We also, especially a lot of the other districts also charge for restrooms and portables. And so you can see a nominal fee of $20. I can tell you portables cost a lot more than that, but this would be at least something to help offset some of the costs. So as you can see, those are the recommended changes. Again, this was kind of a complete overhaul of our rental facilities and usage form and prices. Again, we haven't touched this since 2014, so it's been quite a while. I think it's way overdue. And the timing of our budget and things, this would seem prudent to me that we update this.
So the 3 fees at the top, custodial fees, cook fees, incidental fees, that's in addition to the rental costs?
Correct.
Okay.
Which had always been there, but not outlined necessarily as clear, so.
Yeah, just so we understand the full impact, like what organizations or groups might be most affected by this?
Well, if you go, according to go to, so nonprofits and other fee users would be the two that would be impacted most.
Just wondering if there's any in town that like we should be doing any outreach, just to make sure there's not sticker shock.
So, yeah. So that might be something we could go and look and see who's the most nonprofits that are utilized are. But again, we want to bring this, it's just a discussion item, so at this point, but it's something I think that the board should consider and updating.
So is that basically anybody who, I mean, so is that like the Boy Scouts use Jefferson, I think?
That would include
have in
them,
the
so like
past.
AAUs, Boy Scouts, anyone that uses the theater.
Yeah.
But AAU
Yeah.
uses the gyms the most.
Yeah.
But again, like Bob said, this is aligning with what the other school districts are doing. We were far away from what they're doing.
And we tried not to go too crazy, but to align with other similar sized districts.
Yeah, I mean, that was gonna be a question is, I mean,
That's why.
right, are these, I agree an increase. And are these increases sufficient? Just like you say, if someone takes the portable restroom option, we would then actually be losing money on renting them
We're renting
out
anyway.
out the facilities.
This would just give us a little more income. It's not gonna cover, but I think it's also just, it helps offset some of the costs that will occur.
Yeah,
And we're trying to align with, and that's why I wanted to research other size districts. Okay, what is everybody else doing? They pretty much, those affordable, pretty aligned with each other for the most part. There's some one-offs in some areas. And in like one of the school districts, they actually charge for tennis courts. That's not, so obviously, but just to give you an idea, we did do quite a bit of research, to make sure we weren't going too far above and beyond what's quote typical in a 2A size school district.
Just another question, if we do adopt this, would you recommend doing that each year going forward then again too, or should we have a schedule for?
I probably would not do it every year, but maybe every 2 years, maybe. Unless things got really, inflation went up double digits, then we would take a look, but, obviously you can see some of the price increases, from 10 to 20 since 2014.
Yeah, just thinking like some groups have actually just been getting a really good discount for like, a lot of years,
Yeah, a lot
but
of
definitely
years.
a big increase looks more shocking than if we did incremental increase.
Yeah, so I would probably suggest maybe every 2 years we revisit this and say, hey, do we want to make adjustments or not? Kind of like we do, we do the meals every year, and maybe we do facilities every year.
Yeah, and I was gonna recommend that too, because this hasn't been touched in 10 years,
Yeah.
and like it's just kind of forgotten. But the other thing, moving forward too, we may wanna review, okay, what is actually being used during the rental? Because a lot of the other school districts also rented chairs, per, $1 per chair, or are there other things we wanna look at? So maybe we oversee the master library where you do the rental facilities, and maybe with Justin's help, we can start seeing what actually is utilized that we're replacing that we may want to start charging for.
all right, and basically like when groups come in to use a facility, basically our cost of that is janitor service or having a principal or administrator at the building during.
We usually staff, so it's like a custodian, it's utilities. And those add up, if you're doing, evenings in the winter, heat, lights, that type of thing. So again, we're not making money on this. And obviously the community supports us through the levy, but obviously the levy's not covering everything. So this is just, it would put us closer to more alignment with other districts and what facilities and rentals seem to be going at. And again, it's been a while, but I think this is just an example as we go through things, we're trying to maximize our revenue to a degree, as well as our expenses, to figure out how to curb those.
How much has a nonprofit like Boy Scout, Girl Scout, 4-H been charged to this point for using a classroom on a school day? I mean, like after school?
It's pretty rare, do you know, Diane, do you have an idea on the cost?
Like how many hours or?
Just how much, if they want to have a meeting at 6 o'clock in the evening on a school day,
$15 an hour.
I was gonna say.
$15 an hour is what they've been charged.
Yeah, they're usually there maybe 2 hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
If it's on a school day, no custodian.
no custodian.
Yeah.
So it's like a $5 increase there.
Yeah, it's like a $5 increase.
Perfect.
So it's not, like I said, it's not wild.
Right.
The nativity is maybe once a month, twice a month,
Once a month, yeah.
once a month.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I think $5 increase was a pretty reasonable, so. But again, I do think recognizing school day versus a non-school day versus a holiday is,
That's a bad thing.
yeah, it's good, is a good move.
Yeah.
So. All right, any other questions on that? I can answer. Okay.
All right, that ends the discussion items. Moving on to informational items. Informational items do not require action or discussion by the board. The items are included in the agenda for the board to review and may be moved to the discussion items section of the board agenda by any board member. Informational items include board procedure updates and non-substantive policy updates. Are there any items that a board member would like to move to the discussion items section of the agenda? No. All right. Thank you. That ends the regular board meeting. We will move into executive and closed session for
I think 5 minutes.
for 5 minutes, for performance of an employee discussion. So we would like to thank those who came and appreciate you coming and your comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.